saying that 2 days are okay, or working out for 2.5 hours is okay? If that's, I mean, burning calories doing like those single joint movements or whatever you're doing. So is that long workout going to be productive for the actual?
There is going to be a limit. I mean, there's only so much protein synthesis you can create. There is a point when you can work out so much that you break down the muscle so much that you can't rebuild it. Everyone knows when you work out, there's actually myosin and actin cross bridge heads. This is actually what troponin from Troponin Nutrition comes from. So here's a muscle fiber. Calcium comes into the muscle fiber and binds to something called troponin, which moves troponin off of tropomyosin, which creates these little open holes basically where the other muscle fiber, the actin, can bind to those holes, latch in, and then they kind of cross over. And that's what happens with a muscle contraction. Now that's, when you can imagine with a bunch of weight, there's a bunch of shearing force, so that muscle fiber gets torn apart as it's trying to cross over, and you break down that muscle. And that muscle gets broken down, and the body sends these triggers that something we're doing every day is breaking down these muscle fibers. We need to find a way to build that muscle back bigger and stronger so it doesn't break down under the same stress. And so that's what actually happens. You can work out so much that you break down so much muscle fiber that it's more broken down than you can rebuild back up. Is the average person going to do that? Probably not. There is a point of no return, but I'm never going to, I would say there's nothing wrong with hard work. If your body's going to tell you when you're working out too hard, never think I should stop working out now. I might be working out too hard. That's probably not going to happen. But there is a point. I mean, young guys come in and they want to train. Maybe they're still at home. They have summer break. They have the time to work out 4 times a day, so they go 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. I say go ahead and do that. Your body's going to tell you when that's too much. But if your motivation's that high, go for it. It's not going to be that high forever. Keep coming.
So, I was doing some reading, and there are different magazines online, and they're talking about improving your hamstring, which should improve your overall lifting abilities. What are your opinion on that?
I mean, you can use straps to basically take over that effect. But yeah, there's nothing. That, in my opinion, that falls under the, oh crap, we have to come up with new articles. But it's certainly not going to hurt. And the reason is even powerlifters, one of the things on benches people always talk about is you want to bend the bar. You tighten it up and you actually try to bend the bar like this because you're strongest on a bench. Have you ever heard of imaginary lat syndrome? Guys will work out for a week and they start walking around like this. Well, that actually helps your bench because it pushes your arms against those lats. And so what you actually want to do is squeeze the bar and bend it like that, and it'll actually help your bench. So a strong grip does help. That'll help on back movements also. But we've developed a point of technology where we have these things called wrist straps. That can strap you. You don't need the hand strength anymore. But it's not going to hurt. That falls under that's like, we got to come up with an article. And so you have to come up with something. Yeah, human physiology doesn't change by the month. The articles have to come out every month. Yeah.
Or does all those causing stress to causing fat?
Yeah.
Is that what we do?
Probably slowing metabolism down, or more shifting the role, decreasing the triggers for protein synthesis. And burning calories at a higher rate without the trigger for protein synthesis, meaning you're going to burn muscle, deplete glycogen. It's less storing fat, more losing the ability to build muscle, and actually creating an environment to burn muscle. And then a short-term effect, it would be plowing through muscle glycogen, which is why I'm assuming you're talking about like pre-contest.
Yeah, pre-contest, but also like just general just stress, anxiety, all that shit.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever seen someone right before a contest, they look amazing in a week out, and then on stage they look like a fat, watery mess.
They're stressed out.
Yeah. What happens is that's like a glycolytic pathway, glycolysis. So what's fueling that stress is muscle glycogen, and you're burning through that muscle glycogen. But when that muscle glycogen leaves the muscle, water goes with it, and you flatten out, and then you just kind of get that stringy, watery look. Yeah. And there's arguments with raising cortisol by exogenous, by taking external stimulants, pre-workout will decrease muscle gains. And it actually probably will, but I don't think it will ever be a level where how am I gonna word this? Let's say you don't take any caffeine or anything before a workout, and your workout intensity is here. But if you do take caffeine and stuff before a workout, that caffeine and stuff before a workout raises cortisol and decreases the amount of muscle you can build. But if that stuff allows you to take your workout intensity to here, that's gonna make a bigger difference than the negative effects.
Well, black coffee in the morning then.
Nothing wrong with it. I don't know how anybody gets by without caffeine in the morning.
Do you believe in cardio in the off season, protein synthesis?
Yeah. I don't do it because I'm lazy. But I can say I always made my best gains when I did cardio in the off season. And that wouldn't be an hour of cardio. I typically did 20 minutes after my workouts. And I would still have my drink during the workout. And I'll say I don't know as much for the increasing protein synthesis. I think it increases appetite, which is good. But I think the big thing is having better cardiovascular levels allows you to train better. I can tell you that right now, my limiting factor on leg and back day isn't my muscular strength and muscular endurance, it's my cardio. And so like we're talking about Jordan doing 500 for 17, I tried to get 500 for 20.
He doesn't even do cardio now, so we don't do it.
But what limits me on my high rep leg movements right now is my oxygen ability, my cardiovascular, not my leg strength. And so that limits anything that's, limiting your weight training. So if I did cardio right now, my leg training would probably be better, my back training would be better. I use the excuse that I'm too busy, whether or not that's valid, I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think about backloading after a workout, Justin? What's your theory on that? Like 2 dozen donuts or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like no carbs before a workout.
What's that?
No carbs before a workout. Basically just like regular broccoli, fats.
It depends on your goal. Right now my goal is to build muscle. So what I actually did backload after this workout, Grady and I went to 1010 and we have a guy there who makes us sushi, and he makes us our special plates with extra meat. And that's why I was kind of, you could tell, I was like in insulin coma when I first got here. So I had probably at least 200 grams of carbohydrates after the workout today. But I had 100 grams before. I had about 90 in there. I probably only drank about half. And then I had about another maybe 200 after the workout. So yeah, I mean, when you're trying to gain size, definitely. Because what happens is I worked out today, we did arms. And so now I broke down these muscle tissues. My body sends signals to my arms that to trigger protein synthesis. And what your body's trying to do, your body's not trying to build muscle for any, to look good at the beach or anything, or your body's building muscle for a reason. And the reason is we did something and it broke down that muscle tissue. And so the body says, well, if we keep breaking down the muscle tissue, eventually we're gonna have some problems. So we need to send a trigger to build it back bigger and stronger so it doesn't break under the same stress. And you can think of like a rope holding a ship back or something. If it keeps snapping, you're gonna keep losing ships drifting out in the ocean, so you need a bigger rope. And then your body's the same way, muscle fibers are the same way. So if it keeps snapping from that weight training, and that's what happens when you train, your body needs to build them back bigger and stronger. So it sends that trigger for protein synthesis. So what can we do to amplify it? One thing we know is we can increase insulin levels. Insulin levels increase amino acid uptake. And we know most of the protein we eat gets converted to a carbohydrate anyway. So if we can increase the amount of protein that actually goes to protein synthesis even by 1%, we're going to be building a lot more, we're building a lot more muscle. And so, like with the backloading, yeah, definitely after workout. I don't think donuts as much. I still try to eat good food. But like with sushi, I have fish, lean protein, and carbohydrates.
You say no donuts because there's not really any nutrition in them?
I think the fat's bad.
Okay.
I mean, the sugary carbohydrates probably aren't bad. But if if you're loading on donuts, you're definitely going to be hypercaloric. You're going to be eating more calories than you burn, because donuts are just so calorie dense. And since there's also so much fat, you spiked insulin sky high, which is great, because we have a trigger for protein synthesis. Any protein we eat is going to be more likely converted to new muscle. And on top of that, we have all this insulin driving that protein into the muscle, but now we also have fat. And with insulin spike, that fat's going to be stored as fat. So my backloading is really high. After my workouts, it's very high carbohydrate, moderate protein, low fat.
So you think like clean food, like white rice or brown rice?
Yeah, I almost always do white rice. Okay. One thing I'll do sometimes after workout is I'll make a shake. And what I'll do typically is I'll do oatmeal, Cocoa Krispies, and protein powder. Because we're trying to spike insulin, we just don't want fat. So the oatmeal is a complex carbohydrate, that's good, that's going to be digested longly, over a period of hours. The Cocoa Krispies are going to spike my insulin, but there's no fat involved, and then my protein powder doesn't have fat either. I prefer to eat a whole food meal after the workout, but sometimes, I have 4 kids, and so Mondays my one daughter's in basketball, Wednesdays my other daughter's in basketball. This Tuesday we had a concert, and so a lot of times I'm running after my workout to another event, and so I don't have time to eat the whole food, so I'll make that kind of a shake like that. Or I'll use waxy maize. Anyone heard of waxy maize? Or Holly Brand cyclodextrins?
Yeah, what is that?
Which one? The waxy maize or the?
Yeah, what?
Waxy maize is a high molecular weight carbohydrate. What that means is, high molecular weight means you have a glucose molecule, right? Floating around, just a little thing floating around. Well now, let's put a string of glucose molecules. That's called maltodextrin. Multiple dextrins. Multidextrin. Well now let's take a waxy maize and amylopectin. What that is a huge tree, like a huge just ball of glucose molecules with tons of surface area. So it has a really high molecular weight. Sorry, standing up and sitting.
No, you're fine.
It has a really high molecular weight, so it's like a bowling ball, but it's got all these glucose molecules at the surface. When you eat a carbohydrate, you talk about complex carbohydrates, you don't digest a complex carbohydrate. Only simple sugars cross the small intestine into the bloodstream. But before a carbohydrate can do anything, it has to go through the stomach, into the small intestine, and then each glucose has to be plucked off to transfer into the bloodstream. So waxy maize is a huge, heavy bowling ball with all these glucose molecules at the surface. So by having a bowling ball, it has a low osmolarity, which means it plows through the stomach, into the small intestine. So rather than sitting in the stomach and making you bloated, it gets right to the small intestine, where now all these glucose molecules can get plucked off. When you have a maltodextrin, you have a line, you only have 2, one on each end, so you can pluck two glucose molecules off at a time. When you have a waxy maize, you can pluck hundreds off at a time. So it's a complex carbohydrate that allows you to enter glucose in the bloodstream really quickly. And then highly branched cyclodextrins. A cyclodextrin has anyone ever used Febreze? Febreze, forget it, the way it works? Febreze is a cyclodextrin. It's a cone, if you think of a road cone, it's hydrophilic on one side, hydrophobic on the outside, or on the other side. So what happens is stink gets trapped in the cone and can't get pulled out until you add water. So you spray Febreze on something. The reason you can forget it is because the stink gets trapped in the cone, and then later on, a day later, 2 days later, you wash it or wipe it down with something wet, the water pulls the stink out of the cone. Yeah. Well, cyclodextrins can be used for lots of different things. It's not just stink that it can hold amino acids. The other thing is highly branched cyclodextrins are the same thing, only instead of just glucose molecules, you have an additional order of, what's the word I'm looking for? Instead of just glucose molecules at the end, you have cyclodextrins, which is a ring of 7 glucose molecules. So you basically increase the surface area, the number of glucose molecules that can be plucked off at a time, by 7. So instead of a glucose molecule, you have 1 at a time. Maltodextrin, you can pluck 2 off each end. Something like an amylopectin, you can pluck hundreds. Well then, a highly branched cyclodextrin, you can maybe pluck 700 at a time. So it's another really heavy, complex carbohydrate that gets glucose in the bloodstream really quick. And supplement companies aren't really using it for this yet, but it can also bind molecules inside the cyclodextrins also to increase the rate of uptake of those.